Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara Zoner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
grab a cup of love.
A Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast. Hey guys, it's John Davis back again. And I am a very lucky man today because I get to talk to two really cool people. Of course, the first one is my co-host in crime, the lovely Tamara Zoner. Hello, Tamara Zoner. How are you today?
I'm fine, John. How are you?
I am doing great. You know, we both have had a great experience with our guest today. We both have been on her podcast, and so we drug her onto ours because it's kind of fun to, repay her. And so today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you to our new friend and comrade in spirituality, Rachel Astarte. She is a psychotherapist, a self-development specialist, and a spiritual counselor. And she's going to have a lot of wonderful things to tell us. Hello, Rachel. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, John and Tamara. It is absolutely my pleasure. And I love to see you both again and in the same Zoom call. It's crazy.
Well, we like doing our podcast. I think anyway. At least I do. I think sometimes.
We both do.
I think sometimes I totally abuse Tamara.
Now, sometimes you surprise me, John. Put it that way.
Oh,
Well, you surprised me. You surprised me earlier today, so it's okay.
This is going to be great for me then.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna get my popcorn and sit, watch it all go down.
There you go. So Rachel, amazing credentials, amazing, titles there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey, and let's just get into what spirituality means to you.
Yeah. So my spiritual journey starts really early, like it does for a lot of people. I grew up on a farm in upstate New York and spent a lot of time outdoors and a lot of time connecting with the spirits of nature, and felt that very viscerally. I never felt alone, because being outdoors, there's so much energy out there, and I was really blessed because both of my parents, although they were raised with some kind of religion, my father was raised Roman Catholic, his father was off the boat from Sicily. My mother was raised Jewish, she's a German Russian Jew. So I got the Catholic guilt and and the Jewish guilt, and all the shame, all the guilt, and twice the food.
But good food.
Of course, it's good food. So, but they were both very spiritual people in their own right, and they taught my sisters and me, hey, man, whatever spirit means to you, that's what it means, So I remember as a child asking, what's heaven like? And my father or my mother, maybe both of them, said, well, what do you think? And I imagined this big carnival. And for some reason, as I'm walking through this carnival, I saw all these cool dead people like, Abraham Lincoln and Einstein and stuff like that. I thought, well, this is kind of cool. I think I'm going to think like that's what heaven is, a big, place to hang out and have, funnel cake and ride rides and hang out with cool people, So that was when I was a child. But anyway, that was my upbringing. And then when I hit about 21, I started thinking, I got to get serious about the spirituality stuff. I have to pick something. I have to pick it, So I was really into Catholicism when I was in my teens, but that was because of the Thornbirds, and I don't know if you know that, and that doesn't really count. I loved all of the pomp and circumstance, and I am a big fan of Jesus. And so I thought, well, this looks good, but it didn't really speak to me. There was a lot of, stuff I didn't agree with. And so when I was 21, I tried Judaism. And went to a Reform temple with some family friends, and we always observed all the holidays in our house. So the Jewish and the Christian or Catholic holidays all the time. So I got a good idea of what they both were all about. But Judaism didn't really work out for me. There was a little bit of sexism involved that I was not down with. And, women don't have to read the Torah because they have the beautiful, job of raising children, and they don't have to burden themselves with all of that studying. And I just went, nope, I'm out. So then I went right to Zen Buddhism at 21. And practiced that for some time. And again, something wasn't quite working for me. I think it was the rigidity. I loved the teachings, but my spirit was way too big, to sit through life. And now I understand more what that means, but it took me some time. So this is getting long. All right. So I got 50 odd years of this. So no, but anyway, so the point is I began to pick and choose the way a lot of people do. What speaks to my soul, right? Walt Whitman says, dismiss that which rejects, or dismiss that which insults your soul. So I said, let me just live that way. So I just went back to being open to spirit. And that meant Taoism as well. So I was practicing Taoism for a while, and I did continue meditation. I started practicing yoga in my late 20s. And again, on and off. There was something about the rigidity that I just couldn't be contained. So dabbled in Wicca, did a little bit of, other kinds of free-spirited work with energy of the universe kind of stuff. And then I came around to shamanism, which isn't a religion, but it is a spiritual practice. And that seems to have been where I've landed for, I guess about a decade now, practicing. And I also do Kundalini yoga. So those are my two practices at the moment, besides just being alive and living and letting whatever comes to me come to me. I hope that answered your question.
Well, that was a great answer, actually. And the thing that I like to latch on in that is you felt like you were too big to be contained. And I love that expression, because I had the same experience. My mom opened my mind. She was Roman Catholic as well. And she opened my mind to just, spirituality being a personal journey. And so I went off and did a bunch of studies as well. I also really resonate with your finding spirituality in nature, because I often found a lot of my spiritual experiences in nature and going out there. How about you, Tamara?
Nature, always. I find it so interesting, as you were speaking, Rachel, that around 21, you decided you needed to decide. Yeah. What was that about for you? With parents who were very open, I had the opposite experience. We were Roman Catholic, and that's what you had to be, although my dad wasn't anything. And I started, collecting aspects of religion and spirituality in my late teens, and was like, nah, I'm not really Catholic. Yeah. So what made you decide that you had to commit to some form of religion at that age?
I felt like I wanted to practice. I wanted to get serious about this journey, and I wanted to have a path that and I wanted community. I wanted to find my tribe, and I did, and maybe this is for later in the conversation, but one of the things I've learned as I've gone on is there is no real tribe. It's your journey. You're born alone, you die alone, and along the way you collect some beautiful souls that dance with you on this earth, but it's your journey. So even trying to lean into community, and I know this is not a popular thing to say, especially now, but I really think that our spiritual journey is a solitary one, and we can speak the same language with people who we might call our tribe. But that's one of the things I think is the most beautiful about the spiritual journey, is how individual it is. But yeah, so and then right before I turned 30, I started reading Ken Wilber, and his Integral Spirituality book really changed my mind, because he said, pick a spiritual practice and stick with it. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have any relevance because it's all the same. And that really resonated with me. So, you know, I tried some Tibetan Buddhism for a while and all that. Again, I was going back to the same old pathways, but once I really got quiet and listened, I was like, nah, I will pick a practice, but it has to really, really, truly like resonate with all of my being. So yeah, needing a practice.
You know, I love that as well. And I think the thing that is really interesting, I'm a firm believer that one practice is too small to encompass all of what truth is, and universal truth in particular. And when I look at the your journey, I see someone who is open enough to go try new things without any fear or resistance, as it were. And we just did a podcast about resistance, which was just really wonderful. And so I find that just being open to it, you probably found a clearer path to what you truly believe.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I would. I mean, because that's how it has to be for all of us.
Right.
So many times and Tamara, you just mentioned, you're born into a practice. And that's great, because there's certainly something to be said for tradition and handing down of stories, which I'm also very a big proponent of. I think we lose that we have lost that in many regards in our culture. The handing down of the stories and the traditions. But I also firmly believe that it's a beautiful thing to create your own, and to work within them, so whatever that might be. Like for my son, he has an altar in his bedroom, and he's always had an altar in his bedroom since he was about the age of 5. He's 11 now. And he adds to it, and he puts the teeth that have fallen out, puts them on his altar. It's like the tooth fairy isn't going to take him anymore. so he puts them on his altar to honor, whatever it is he honors. I don't even ask, but he's got the same stuff on his altar, and he just adds to it, rocks and leaves and things, and, little treasures. And to me, that's so important, is to make whatever your practice is your own, even if it's a path that's been well worn. Like shamanism's been around for 45,000 years, but every time you journey and every time you experience whatever it is you experience, that's coming through you as your own vessel. So yeah, it has to be determined by you. Yeah.
Yeah. Tamara, what's that quote of yours that you love so much about turning back to yourself?
Oh, curving back on myself, I create again and again, from the Bhagavad Gita.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep. I know that one. That's great.
It's an amazing journey. Shakespeare said there's more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophies. And I think a spiritual journey really has to be a one that's open to all possibility. And I think that you are very lovingly and not only to yourself but to others. And you keep saying that it's a solo journey. I'm a firm believer that the better you make yourself, the better the environment around you will get, and the better the people around you will get as well. Because you live as example instead of as a solo act. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Make your part good, so everybody else's part can get good as well.
Right. But, that's physics. That's quantum entanglement right there.
Yep.
That's we are always in communication with everyone around us. So when we're generating that joy, or we're generating that true selfness, whatever that might be for each of us, then that's infectious. We're communicating that with all the beings and things around us. They've done studies with plants that, you scream at the plant, "You're ugly," versus giving it love. And, they're still getting the CO2 that they need, but they're also picking up on the energy that you're sending to it. So yeah, absolutely, John. I think that we have to, it's our one obligation, I think, in life, is to be the best self we can be, whatever that looks like, so that we can radiate that out in the rest of the world.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm thinking of the conversation John and I just had about how his experience with different people is different from most people, where he's always getting cooperative support. He's always being welcomed. He's been chased up a mountainside to be given a coat, you know, all these beautiful stories. And I think that if more people lived with that point of view of like, it's my obligation, like you said, Rachel, to be the best version of myself so that radiates out and supports others on their journey. Like, oh my gosh, how beautiful would the whole world be if we all lived like that?
Yeah. Yeah. And so many of us grow up with traumatic childhoods, you know, and so when we don't get the love and support from, okay, here's my therapist hat coming on. But if we don't get the love and support that we need from our primary caregivers, then what? Then we get this stupid message in our head that we're not good enough, we're not lovable, and that's what we walk around with. And then all the neuroses get spread around us and we see the world through that filter. But when you have someone like John, who does the work that he does, and Tamara, the work that you do, where you're helping people, both of you are helping people to make peace with all of that and find their true centers. Yeah. And help them just be supported. Right. So now you both are giving your clients and everyone you work with a corrective experience, because there's, oh, I didn't get this love from my family, but these two people are helping me, or, this person's working with me, and that makes me question all this crap I've been telling myself, because for some reason these people think that I'm worth spending time on and that I have something worth giving, and that really can sometimes spark someone over the edge into seeing themselves in a different way and doing all the beautiful things we're talking about.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I find so beautiful about you and your story is that you have found a way to marry the old with the new. You've brought science into spirituality, which is, I think, a big transition that we're having in the world right now, with noetic science now coming up and everything. I think that that science begins to explain a lot of it. But how did you go from that very spiritual to that very scientific, or was that a natural transition, or was there any resistance in that?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I've had an equal right brain, left brain my whole life. So I'm very analytical and I'm very spiritual and loosey-goosey and creative and all that stuff. So, and much to the dismay of my father, who was a poet and, visionary, and he's like, how did you get so literal? It's like, I can't understand Wallace Stevens, so the point is that I get image and I get the big picture, that, all of that, but I also really love science and I really love logic. And what I love about it is that, again, there's no difference. Every time I go and try to prove something, and believe me, my son and I have had long conversations about, he's saying he's an atheist, he's decided. So he's prove the existence of God. So, oh, I love getting into this. I said, well, we can't really prove that, but that's part of the beauty. But here, let's show you what we think. How do we define what God is, first of all? Okay, so where do we see that in the world? And then we talk about quantum physics, right? There's stuff we can't explain. We can't. And science is trying to do that. But the more science is learning, the more we're realizing that everything really is connected. And that there is some creative, destructive force that's propelling us. And to me, there's nothing more magical than that. We may not be able to find the God particle, but at the same time, maybe we will. And I don't think it's going to change a damn thing. Right. Yeah, I love it because it proves it. So that. And it's also really important to me not to have my feet on the ground. In other words, it's very easy to sit here and talk about God and spirituality and this and that and this and that. It's also very easy to put that into the box of new age crap. right?
Mhm.
And I refuse to be put into any boxes at all. So I say, okay, well, let's look at it from both sides, and you'll see that it's no different.
Right.
I'm the most skeptical person there is, in many
Right.
ways.
I love that. I love that. I love it's interesting because it seems like you came at science from the spiritual perspective.
Mhm.
And when I look at the quotes of Einstein, Einstein said he doesn't believe in he believes in the God of Spinoza. And so he believes not that it's a bearded man on a cloud, but it's just a force that's out there. He also said that there has to be some larger consciousness because when you look at the small pieces, it's too organized.
Mhm.
It has to be really so scientifically. He was saying that there was some form of God, right?
Mhm.
And the more I dug into spirituality, the more I found that my my studies of the ancient text proved the scientific text even more.
Yes.
And I think it's the dogma and the ceremonies that kind of fog or obscure that view of that bridge.
Mhm.
Do you
Mhm.
believe that?
I think that when they become rote, they do,
Right. Yeah.
because dogma, I guess, this is how it's done and that's it, leaves no room for the mystic. All the major religions have mystical arms to them. We were talking about Sufism in our podcast, right?
Mhm.
When you came as a guest with me, and the Christians have the Gnostics, and of course there's the the Kabbalah in Judaism. So there are always these mystical aspects that want to break the dogma, but the rituals, I think, are really important. I think they're beautiful as long as they're infused with the moment and the true spirit of what it is you're trying to do. That's what makes them no different from anything else.
Right. So what you're saying is you can get lost in the rituals,
Mhm.
but miss the meaning of them.
Yeah. Was like, oh, today's the day we light all the candles. Nah, nah, nah. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Wait a minute, what about the mystery, what about the myth? And the Spinoza thing that you were talking about with God not being a man in a cloud on in the sky. um True. I mean, I would align myself with that, but there's also something to be said for that, and then we can move into Jungian archetypes, right? The great father archetype, it's an archetype. It's not, this is where my literal mind goes out the window and I say, no, I see that. That's why it's okay. That's why Christianity to me, fine, great. Or it's Pachamama, and it's the earth mother, and it's all the same.
Right. It's all the same. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about your nature spirituality, have you ever had well, I mean, let me ask this in a very weird way. First of all, do you see auras?
Sorry,
Do
do
you
I
see
see auras?
auras?
No, I am not a visual person very much. I don't see auras. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of explain something that I saw one time. Now,
Mhm.
I don't see auras in the way people describe auras. I see energies moving. I
Mhm.
see flowing energies.
Okay.
Um, like if I see two people in a room and one of them is the dominant person, I literally see the one who's not dominant flowing energy into that person who's demanding the energy.
Interesting.
Um, Fascinating to watch, by the way.
Wow,
Really
I bet.
fascinating to watch. But one day I was in Tennessee, I was driving down the road, and one of the things that I see naturally when I drive, and this sounds so bizarre, when I look at trees outside, I see them as glowing.
Mhm.
I see an energy around the trees.
Mhm.
And so when I drive down the road, I literally will be just watching this energy and feeling this energy. Now, a
Mhm.
lot of that came into my life because I first one of the first spiritual books I ever read was the Celestine Prophecy, and
Mhm.
it talks about focusing and doing that. But
Mhm.
one day while driving in Tennessee, I was driving past a forest, and I saw an energetic, to lack of a better word, tornado, and it was like a big burst of energy flying up from the forest and just disappearing into the sky. So when I stopped to assess what I thought I saw, the way I kind of assess it is that the energy is in constant motion. It's like a waves in the ocean. And when they came together and collided, they crashed to the sky. Right. So that's how I saw it. So me having that kind of experience, and you having a belief in the spirituality in nature, how would you describe that, hearing my experience?
How would I describe what you saw?
Yeah, like in a like scientific level, or if you can, you might not be able to, for all I know.
No, I think you described it well. What I would have thought. I mean, everything in the cosmos is vibrating energy, vibrating light. Yeah. So if you are attuned to seeing that, you know, in a concrete way, yeah, that could have been anything. That could have been, and you don't know what happened after you drove past, you know.
Right. Or before.
That could have been
before.
energy getting the hell out of there for some reason, you know.
That's what it sounded like. Yeah.
Right.
Out of here.
Yeah, exactly. It was going to be a brush fire or something, you know, I don't know, but or it was whatever it is. I mean, shamanically speaking, for example, we talk about when the soul leaves the body temporarily in order to save us. Yeah. So for example, we're going into a surgery. So you go under anesthetic and you're out. Your soul will, in the shamanic tradition, will leave, hang out until it's safe to come back. You know, so I've had anesthesia once in my life, and I remember saying, okay, please come back. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Just get back, you know, because we don't want to have to do a soul retrieval. It's going to be bad. So, but so if we think about it in that way, you know, it could very well be that something was going down and the energy had to, you know, the soul or the energy had to leave for maybe a while, maybe not. We really don't know. It'd be wonderful to find out, though.
I would love to know.
Yeah. I do see certain glowing things, right? So like it always comes out for me whenever I do tarot or card pulling or something like that. The card that I need will glow and I pick it, right? And I'm looking at the trees right now and I can see that. I don't see it in humans. And for me, my connection is kinesthetic. So I feel physically in my body. When I'm in nature and I need to talk to somebody, and like a tree or one of the birds or chipmunks that my cat has dragged in as a gift, and I have to say goodbye. You know, I make sure that spirit is taken care of before I go and put it in its little burial ground or whatever it is. But so those things I feel within my body. So I'm not as visual as you are, but that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's awesome. I know, Tamara, you're a big nature.
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
Yeah. I'm more of a feeler as well. So I don't see, but I feel. And I have had similar experiences with my cat and sending the little animal, you know, back to Mother Earth with love and respect. So, but I'm curious though, Rachel, like, how did you venture onto the path of psychotherapy when you clearly could do any sort of healing, and you do? Okay, how are you drawn toward psychotherapy, and then how do you incorporate your spirituality into your practice?
Yeah, so for me, I think that was my logic, my science brain. Again, I needed balance because I felt as though I wanted to have the tested theories and I wanted to learn more about what in the conscious mind of these scholars, people, you know, what are the empirically tested methods for working with the mind, and you know, and I should learn them, and so I did, And then I thought, okay, now that I got that, how can I infuse spirituality into it? Because this isn't new. I mean, Virginia Satir, who was a very famous psychotherapist, humanist psychotherapist in the 80s, she was one of the first to start bringing spirituality into the psychotherapeutic process. So when I read her stuff, I was like, that's great. So I'm glad somebody's doing it. Now we're even getting to the point where people are bringing in shamanism into psychotherapy, which I'm so relieved. And even psychedelics, which I am also a proponent of, as long as it's done in a proper ritual setting, not even necessarily a psychotherapeutic setting. That's great too. But I think ritual is important, as well as the processing and integration of the gifts you receive on the journey. Mm-hmm. So anyway, all of these things are starting to come together because so the reason that I got into psychotherapy was to get the other leg firm. And now I have the other leg in the spiritual world, and I want to be able to bring them together for my patients, because we can't possibly go through the world only being in our head, or only being in our body, or only being spiritual. They have to work together.
Right. Well, that's absolutely true and amazing in my mind. And so we're winding down here. So how do people get a hold of you, Rachel?
They can go to my website, which is rachelastaretherapy.com. And there you'll also find my podcast that you both were beautiful guests on, which is called Self-Talk with Rachel Astarte. And that's the best way to find me.
And that being on your podcast was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I know, speaking for myself, I'm sure that Tamara had the same. But
absolutely, one of my favorites so far.
Yeah, well, we just released Tamara's, and John, you're coming up soon, so I'll make sure to get you all that information so that you can get it to your people. And yeah, it was beautiful having both of you. So and I'm so honored, actually. This was John's idea at the end of our podcast. After we were done, he said, "Hey, I got this thing with Tamara." And I was like, "Can I play?"
We do have a lot of fun, and I feel like we could probably continue this conversation for hours and hours, but I think
maybe we'll have you back.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I have like 10 million more questions.
So. Me too.
Oh, then I'm happy to. Absolutely.
We'll get on a different platform that doesn't have a time limit. Right. So Tamara, you want to take us out of here?
Sure. Thank you, Rachel, so much for being here and sharing your experience with us for the few minutes that we had together. Thank you, John Davis, for doing the inviting. You're so welcoming and such a good inviter for people to join in an experience that will bring more growth to all of us. I can already feel the expansion with the three of us and around us and anyone who's listening. So if you're seeking and Rachel spoke to your heart, I invite you to reach out to her and let us know what you thought of this conversation on our Facebook page. And of course, leave us some stars and a review and let us know what you think. As always, we're so grateful that you're here listening and joining in this bigger soulful conversation to bring more joy, love, and healing into this world. So thank you, and create yourself an amazing day.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Leave all comments and suggestions on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page.